Hello, my name is Keshwani. That's Keshwani, Keshwani. We are here because we want to prepare for the GMAT. We have been solving GMAT math problems out of this book here, GMAT Review, the official guide, the 13th edition. If you do not own this book already, purchase one immediately. You're going to need it. The book contains 230 problem solving questions. It has 174 data sufficiency questions. We have already solved all the math problems from this book. If you're interested in watching any of the original solutions to the problems, you will find the original solutions from day number 1 through 250. Right now we are in the process of redoing the problems and we are on page number 281. Please turn to it. Page number 281, problem number 77. Let's see what the problem tells us. Problem number 77 tells us that we have invested $60,000. We are told that some of that money was invested at X% simple interest rate. We're going to keep that. We're going to give this amount name. That some of the money is invested. We are told at X%. We're going to call that D dollars, D for dollars, and the rest we are told is invested at Y%, the same simple interest rate. And of course, since it is the rest, it is going to be 60,000 minus D dollars. 60,000 minus D dollars is going to be invested at the Y%. We are also told that the total interest that is earned is $4,080. The question simply is, what is X? Now, before we do any work at all, you must always keep in mind, I always remind you, whenever we get to the data sufficiency questions, I always remind you what these questions are all about. These questions are called data sufficiency for a reason. All we are being asked here is, do we have enough data to be able to figure out the value of X if we had to? We do not have to actually figure out the value of X. Nobody is asking us what X is. What we are being asked here is, are we going to have enough data in the statement 1 and statement 2 to figure out if it needed to be figured out? That's all it is. So in the real exam, we are never going to sit there and actually waste our time to figure out the value of the damn thing. Do you understand? Let's look at the first statement. You just have to be able to tell whether or not there is sufficient data. The first statement tells us that X equals 3y over 4. Well, if X equals 3y minus 3y over 4, that implies that y must be 4 times x over 3. Now, we know that the total amount of interest that we earn is $4,080. You can probably already figure where we're going with this thing. It's $4,080, which means $4,080 has to equal X% of D dollars, X% of D dollars, X% of D dollars plus Y%, which is this, 4x over 3% of 60,000 minus D dollars. And that's our equation. The question is it possible for us to figure out the value of X? And we can clearly see the answer is no. No, we cannot figure out the value of X because we have two unknowns. We have two unknowns in one equation. We have the value of D that we do not know. We have the variable V that we do not know the value of, and we do not know the value of X, obviously. That's the question here. What is X? We can figure out the X if we knew what D is, if we knew what was the amount that was invested at X dollars. We do not know that here. The first statement by itself is not sufficient. The first statement by itself is not sufficient. A, D, B, C, E. Because of the fact that we just established that the first statement by itself is not sufficient, we know now answer cannot be A or D. It would have to be either B, C, or E. Let's look at second statement, see what they tell us in the second statement. In the second statement they tell us that for every $3 invested at X%, for every $3 that was invested at X%, $2 was invested at Y%. In other words, we know the ratio of the amount that was invested at X% to the ratio of the amount that was invested at Y%. And that ratio, we are told, is 3 to 2. But if the ratio is 3 to 2, that's 5 parts altogether. 3 plus 2 is 5, and we know the total amount we are told is invested was $60,000. 60,000 has to be divided up into 5 parts, which means each part is $12,000. So that tells us, this actually tells us that we must have invested $36,000 at X percent. We must have invested $24,000 at Y percent. The question is this information enough to figure out what X is? The answer again is no. The answer again is no, because the equation that we get, or equation that we're going to get here is, if you like, if you can write it down, I don't know if you can read that low. The equation we're going to get here is 36,000 times X percent plus 24,000 times Y percent equals 4,080. We have the same exact problem. We have two unknowns. We have the X and we have the Y. We cannot figure out the value of the X and the Y from one equation. We have one equation and two unknowns. It's not enough. It's not enough at all. Second statement by itself is also not enough. The answer cannot be B. But once we put the two statements together, we are home free. That's it. This is the part I'm talking about. In the real exam, we will not waste the time to do any work here. Here we have one independent equation here. Here we have another independent equation. Two equations together, there is no reason why we cannot figure out the value of X and Y. And that's it. The answer is D. Answer is C. The answer is C. Now for the next 5 minutes or so, what we are going to do together, had it been a real exam right now, would have been a sheer waste of bloody time. It would be stupid, it would be silly, it would be idiotic, it would be moronic to sit there and do what we are about to do. Never ever do that in the exam, which is we can actually figure out what X is. Just for the learning purposes, just to get some practice, okay? But not for the real exam. So let's do it together. We're going to do it on the top. I need the room. As I already pointed out, it will be purely maniacal to do what we are about to embark upon. Do you understand? In the real exam, that is. Let's find out what X is together. So if you put 1 and 2 together, we know that it's 36,000 of X percent, which is X over 100, plus 24,000 of Y percent. But Y, we know here from first statement, right here, this is our Y, 4x over 3. 4x over 3%. And that amount has to equal 4,080. It's a very simple equation. It's a very simple equation. It's a laborious equation, it's a tedious equation, but it's not a difficult equation. We just have to solve for X, and that's all it is. Let's do it together, shall we? We need the room, so I'm going to erase this part at least. Let's do it together. Well, very first thing I'm going to do is, we see two zeros here. I'm going to cross them out with these two zeros. I see two zeros here. Let's cross them out with these two zeros. Okay? So we end up with 360 x plus, I see a 3 here and I see a 24 here. This 24 and this 3 is going to cancel out, and it's 8. But don't forget we have another 0 here. So this is 80, and it's 80 times 4. It's 80 times 4, which is 320. This is not something you want to do in a real exam. Times X equals 4,080. We are almost done. 680 X equals 480. The rest you can figure out on your own. That's all it is. And X would equal, since I started this thing, I have the urge, I'm compulsive here, I cannot stop here. I have to finish it. And I'm going to show you actually how to do this without the calculator. You understand? So zeros are going to cancel out, divide both sides by 10, and X equals 408 over 68. And don't sit there and take too long of a time to figure out what to do. Just start doing this, okay? Don't take too much time here. Just start doing here. I see 3 and 4. Just divide by 2 right away. 2, 0, and 4. Divide by 2 one more time. It's 10 and 2. There you go. 100. 102 over 17, and from that point on you just have to do it out. Let's figure out what 17 times 5 is. 17 times 5 is 35, carry 3, 5 and 3 is 8. Let's add another 17. That's a very good sign. That's a very good sign, because when we add another 17, we're going to get 5 plus 7 is 2. We need 2 here. We need 102. So that's the 2, and we do get 102. That's the 2. I just told you, and I wrote down 0. That's the 2, and we get 102. There you go. So this is 5 times, and this is 6 times. So x equals 6. There you go. X equals 6%. X equals 6%. That's all it is. And therefore y must be, y was 3 times x over 3. Y was rather 4 times x. 4 times x over 3 right here. And that was going to cancel out, and y equals 8%. And if you like, you can actually verify it. You can verify it very easily. It doesn't take long to verify it. You will see that 6% of 36,000 plus 8% of 24,000. When we do it, you will find out that it is 4,080. That's all. And if you like, we can actually do it also. I need the room, so we can probably, where can we do it? The 6% of 36,000 is very easy. 6% of 36,000 is very easy, because 36 is 6 squared times 6 is 6 cubed, and I know 6 cubed is 216. So this is going to be, this amount is going to be 2,160. What we have to figure out, we don't know what is 24 times 8. 24 times 8. Well, 24 times 8 is going to be 2, 3, 16 plus 3, 19 is 1,020. 1,020. This amount is 1,920. 1,920 and 2,160. Let's hope and pray to God that it adds up to 4,080. 2,160. Oh, what do you know? That's it. But this was all purely for learning purposes, and ordinarily even I would not have done it on the blackboard. The only reason I'm doing all this thing is because in this video I intend to do only 2 problems, so I'm just taking a little extra time to finish this up. Let's do the next one, shall we? The very last one on the page, number 78. We're done with this thing. Of course, when you're solving these problems on your own for practice, obviously when you're preparing for the exam, you must do all of this work. You must do all of this work. You must verify everything, because this is how we learn. This is not the real exam. We are practicing for the real exam. So you do all these things so that you get the inside of it, so that you get the feel for it. You get to know the problem very well. This is how you get to know the problem intimately. Do you understand? You must sink your teeth into it until the very end, until the very bitter end, until we add them up and it adds up to exactly what it tells us, 4,080. So it turns out x was 6% and y was 8%. The next problem is actually a very straightforward problem. Problem number 78. The question is, what's the price of 5 donuts and 3 bagels? In the first problem, in the first statement, they tell us that the 10 donuts plus 6 bagels equal 1290. Now, if this isn't a silly problem, then I do not know what silly problem would be. This is very silly. This is very childish, very, very puerile, very infantile problem, in my opinion. As you can clearly see that this equation that they give us here in the first statement is 2 times this amount. So whatever the cost of 10 donuts and 6 bagel is, you take half of that amount and that will answer the question. You divide this side by 2 and you divide that side by 2, and there is your answer. The first statement does the job quite nicely. It was silly. A-D, B-C-E. It was a silly question. A-D, B-C-E. The first statement by itself is quite sufficient to answer this question. The question was, what's the cost of 5 donuts and 3 bagels? The 5 donuts and 3 bagels will be half of that amount, $12.90. So it's going to be $6.45. Because of the fact that the first statement by itself is sufficient, we know now that the answer cannot be B, C, or E. It would have to be either A or D. Let's look at the second statement. Let's see what they give us in the second statement. In the second statement, they tell us that the price of the donut, is 15 cents less than the price of the bagels. Simply knowing that the price of the donut is 15 cents less than the price of the bagel is not enough for us to figure out what the cost of 5 donuts and 3 bagels is quite obvious. Second statement is not enough. The answer is A. The answer is A. I'll see you tomorrow, okay? Bye now.